So this is kind of a fun thing to do. Let's predict the overall standings. Now, I didn't change where the standings are division-wise, but I wanted to show you guys something because when I predicted where everybody's going to finish in the division, I also wanted to show which teams I thought were going to be the top 16 in the league. There's 5 Central Division teams in here. There are 3 Pacific teams in here, and there are 4 each of the Atlantic and the Metro. I do see Toronto as being very likely the President's Trophy winners this year. That's just how I see it. Followed by Washington or Winnipeg, Tampa, Pittsburgh, Nashville. I have Nashville dropping to 5th. San Jose, Washington, Vegas. It gets tricky because remember, I think there were 10 teams that got 100 points last year and almost 11. And the separation in and amongst these teams is really difficult to predict because usually there's not a lot to choose between these teams. Again, this follows in terms of how I had teams finishing. So Toronto first, Tampa, Florida, Boston. But again, what this also kind of shows is that, yeah, I know Tampa fans were upset. Like, how can we be second? But I would still have them first in the Metro. I'd still have them first in the Pacific as well. Second in the Central, I would have them ahead of Nashville. So it gives a better idea. And this is just kind of one of those fun things, so I expect a lot of people to take issue with where teams are. I expect Buffalo fans to be upset at being 25th, even though last season they were 31st. I am moving them up 6 points over where they were last season. And yes, absolutely they can move up. Anaheim's been top 10 for a while. I think they're due for a down season. And I think it's going to be close. These 3 teams I think are going to be very close together. But again, I don't see them as being in the playoffs. Columbus, I have as like the last team out of the playoffs, so it could be that close. So I did all my season previews last month, and they started the end of July, and I know there were some people took issue with where I may have had certain teams, and I thought this would give a better idea of how I see the hierarchy being right now, which may not make anybody feel any better. But I thought it was kind of a fun way to look at it. Of course, I have the Capitals at 7th. Coming off of a Stanley Cup, you have to expect somewhat of a drop in their regular season, at least probably at the start. They're going to have a harder time getting back into it. Look at Pittsburgh last year. It was about basically mid-season when Pittsburgh finally rounded into form and started playing like Pittsburgh. Mid-season, we were talking about how they could miss the playoffs. And it looked like a realistic potential option that they could completely miss the playoffs. So I think while Washington, I don't see them flirting with missing the playoffs, I could see them having a tough 15 games to start the season because all those keg stands are going to tend to, blood rushes to your brain, alcohol rushes to other parts of your body too, and maybe it makes it a little more difficult off the hop because there may be somewhat of a level of intensity that they have a hard time replicating. It can be hard to follow that up like we won it all and we're gonna go do it again. And some teams have that, and some teams it's harder to replicate that level of intensity. This does not mean Stanley Cup, and that's the other point that I want to make to people too. I do see Toronto as the best team in the regular season. I think that these two are favored to meet in the Stanley Cup final for good reason, and I could see it, but I think Pittsburgh has one more run left in them too. I could see Pittsburgh going on another run. I could see a rematch of a Stanley Cup final from 2 seasons ago and see Pittsburgh and Nashville going at it. So, yeah, my 1 through 31, I know this is not going to be overly popular with everybody. I wanted to give you guys a chance to soak it in. I do not have the Canucks at 31. I put the Ottawa Senators there. Just there's so much talk about so many issues with Ottawa. It is hard to foresee this team gelling and getting it all in gear. They can. They have the talent to do it. All they've lost really is Hoffman. And they're still a playoff team, not this past season, obviously, but the year before, and they were close to a Stanley Cup final. And the Islanders, it is hard to foresee them potentially getting better with the loss of Tavares and with the players that they've gained in the offseason as well. So, again, it's all a matter of degrees. Let me know where you guys think teams are going to end up. You don't have to do 1 through 31. You can. But you guys can let me know what you think. And again, I know it's not going to end up this way. I'm not some psychic of any sort. I know it's going to end up completely different. I know Bruins fans are not going to like me putting him at 13th. But I could see that. And the funny thing is, Colorado, was 17th overall in the standings last year. So I do have them actually finishing 2 points higher than last season, but I have them dropping a spot in their division because I think Dallas can come in and get a playoff spot as well. But the games are yet to be played. It's just a fun thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. No offense is meant to anybody who's in this category of any sort, but it's just one of those fun things to do. So let me know your thoughts as always. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, this will be as inaccurate as you can imagine. And you guys can look back next summer at how inaccurate this is, the way you looked back this summer on how inaccurate I was about this past season. It's a fun thing to look at. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.